Hello, Dave. Today is Sunday, July 17th, 2022. I am the Bro 9000, and I trust you are all functioning well today. Hello, everybody. I am Mr. Brown, and welcome to the stream. It's Scorchio in the UK, and it's only going to get hotter. The country is shutting down because everyone is sweating their bollocks off, and we don't have air conditioning in houses. It's 25 degrees in my studio or bedroom. At the moment, I'm sweating. You can hear the fans going, so we'll push to get through this. So I trust you're all very well. Should we just start as we mean to go on then? And let's just, as I always say, let's get the bodies out. They're in the green room. Let's do it. Okay, so first up, he is the jester from Leicester. Watch out, War and Peace. The book will be finished eventually. It is Swap Shop. Hey,
you caught me off guard. I'm the first up. Oh my god! Let me just zip my trousers up.
You're up, pal.
Yeah, just airing out my nether regions. It's a little bit sweaty tonight, isn't it? In the UK.
It is. I'll just say hello, chat. Yeah, it's very sweaty in the crevices, isn't it?
Yeah. In yours as well, eh? Not just mine then. I've known it to be hotter. I'm not complaining though. I quite like it. I'd rather have this than dismal rain and blasting cold wind any day of the week.
For some reason, I decided I wanted to do 25 miles on the push bike this evening.
Yeah, what a great decision that wasn't.
It was fine up until the moment I stopped, and then I realised this is quite warm.
Well, I mean, you sweated off all those cream cakes.
So you're well, Matthew. Yes, looking forward to this.
Always, yeah. That's
next question. You know what it is? All that bollocks.
Yeah. Go on.
Okay, let me read my script. My brain is just. Ugh. Next, he's back for even more punishment. He's the go-to guy when it's discussing the week's entertainment. It is the great Matt Cad 83.
What's up, nerds?
What's up, nerds? Hello, Matt. Are you well?
I'm good. How are you?
We're all sweaty over in Blighty.
I can't say the same. I'm sorry. I have my air conditioner blast up high.
Family well, are they?
Yeah, they're great. Yeah, we have every Sunday we do movie night. So we're doing movie night tonight and pizza night. So we make pizza and stuff.
You watching anything good tonight?
No. It's some animated movie, whatever. I was hoping it was that Luck movie from Apple Plus, but that doesn't come out to the 5th, and I had to rush to get it.
Well, I know what it is, folks, and it's definitely not good. So, you know what my next question is, don't you, sir?
I do. Let's do it.
Okay, we see the conflict within our next guest, but we do see the good inside him. Fresh from his singing gig, can you believe it? It is the Dark Sith Lord, Chord.
Hello there.
I didn't know you were a singer.
Yeah, first time. Well, no, I've sung a lot for a while, but this was the first time in public for years.
He's got a lovely voice.
So constantly, but it's disconcerting because I speak down here, but I sing about 2 octaves higher. So
I was going to say, were you hitting those high notes today?
Oh yeah. Like Radiohead. But it's that was fun, but it does mean I'm slightly whiffled because I had to take lots of gin to calm me down. And since I started, I thought I'd carry on, so I'm now on the whiskey. So yeah,
we should try and do a collab sometime.
We definitely should.
Oh, why don't you get that sorted out, Brown?
Quick little message for you, Lord. Can you see it? Like Barry White.
Barry White. That sounds like an old-timey guy who I've heard of him.
Yeah.
But I don't know who it is. So
There you go. More like Jimmy Somerville.
Did he misspell Savile? No. It's
That's
more like
the end of the channel, folks.
someone on the receiving end of Savile. It's that kind of equivalent. Yeah, very falsetto.
How did the what you call it go? The Love and Chunder.
Yeah, oh god, yep, that's all on the go today. So did the singing thing, and then I had the Thor: Love and Thunder review that premiered an hour and a half ago. That seemed to have gone nicely. So fingers crossed it will carry on. It will carry on going nicely.
I'll just say to everybody, obviously check out Matt Cat's channel and the Lord's channel. I will throw a link in the description afterwards. Good channels. You know what? My next question is, don't you, Lord?
Something about something.
Shall we wheel him out?
Wheel him out.
Do it.
Okay, and last but not least, he is the wise elder of the channel, the writer, the portal, the director, paid up member of the Selfridges Appreciation Society. He's the great mega geek himself. It's Ian David Diaz.
Woo-hoo!
Sorry, yeah, hi.
Oh, hi.
Around, as always.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello, Ian. You well?
Yeah, yeah. Well, very well. Yeah. What are we talking about today then?
Is it warm in the smoke?
It is actually, but I've got AC in my bedroom, so it's quite nice.
Oh, God.
Got myself some Ribena. I'm laughing, haven't I?
Who's this AC woman?
Yeah, she's there. Just wait until the show finishes. There you go. I'll be airing my you know what quiver.
Right then, guys. So end of week musings episode 77. Can you believe it's 77? July 17th, 2022.
Now, what are you going to do for your 100th one?
Resign, probably.
No, don't.
That's if we make it that far. Anyway, okay, so
you should cook like a vegan steak live on stream for 100. Then everyone can pity you.
And then I could eat it on the following stream. Okay, so Mr. Brown Alliance, please like, share, subscribe. There's your free eye test. You're welcome. So, first up, I didn't even know that this dropped this week. And it was only because not Brian Young told me yesterday that the second half of the season has got going, and I'm assuming nobody's watched it.
I watched the last episode.
The one what dropped this Monday?
Yeah. The climax to the season. Right? It's the one where the wife had to go.
Yes.
So it's that one, yeah. I saw.
Are you up to speed then? You're definitely up to. Oh wow. Yeah. We'll try not do any spoilers, but
no, it's great.
It's
this is not a spoiler.
It's just so well written.
It is. It's terrific, and it's well played by everyone involved.
Yeah. And
it's so, it has that tendency to make you tense, even though one of the people isn't going to die because he's obviously in, the main show.
Yeah.
So it's like, but it's still tense though, and that's the beauty of the writing, I guess. So there you go.
Yeah, because now we're getting to the business end now, and you're quite correct. You know who's going to survive, obviously.
Yeah. As I said, but even if you do know,
one
you're
character we don't know about that might not make it.
Yeah.
And I kind of get the feeling that character might not make it. But it's just so good.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't say because we can't say anything because there's too much. If we say something, it would be a spoiler, so we can't say anything about it. This last episode is really, really good.
It was the second part to the kind of mid-season. I can't say other than it's fucking great. Not Brian. Several more episodes to go. And I think we all know who's going to. I don't think it's this episode. I think it's the episode after where certain people who we know start to appear.
I actually feel sorry for Saul, because all these things you know about him, obviously something's happened because it doesn't carry on through the main show. So I'm wondering what's going to happen to Saul, how we got to that point where he was in the main show, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So
I think it might have something to do with that other character that's we don't know what's going to happen to. Melvin says, 13 episodes this season. I think there was a mid-season break, or it was down to filming because Bob Odenkirk had a heart attack.
Yeah. Anyway, we should move on because everybody else is getting bored.
Yeah, I'm just going to tell you, Franco, you need to watch it, mate. You need to watch it.
If he didn't get into it, then hopefully in the next 5 years he'll see it again and then get into it. That's what happens. That's what normally happens. But the more you say you should watch it, the less they're going to watch it.
I think he said he stopped watching third. I'm assuming it's third episode, season 1. And I can see why. You just need to stick with it, mate. Okay.
Look,
if you want the ultimate example of subversion, what they'll do is they'll build up to this massive climax at the end. And then they'll put the last episode in Ryan Johnson's hand, and it'll be an hour of chasing a fly around a room.
Brian said Ryan Johnson would kill him off.
Just have him chasing a fly around for an hour. Everyone will love that. That's top drama.
Great episode. Right. Nobody has seen this, but I know somebody who has.
Yeah, Matt. I saw it. Yeah, it was its usual boring self. Like, it was the worst payoff ever. I don't get why they made this show. Although I do have to say, the girl that plays Miss Marvel does a very good job. And the way they've written Miss Marvel, I only read 9 issues of the comic book, and I hated that character. So I'm glad that they changed it up for this show. But they do something at the end of this show that I absolutely hate. And I really wish they wouldn't have done it. And then plus, the whole time I'm all like, who is the bad guy? Because anybody that watches the show, the people you thought were the bad guys, they go away. And then there's somebody else that's like doing the whole, should I be a bad guy? Should I not be a bad guy? But they do it in I don't know. It's just not very good. It's not good. It's bad writing. But at the same time, the girl that plays Miss Marvel is so charming and a fun actress. But that's the only positive thing.
Okay, so you say it's a really good show, and really bad show, and Cameron, what's his name?
Pasha is thinking this is the best thing since sliced bread. Yeah, what does he know?
But he was on your show, though, wasn't he? At one point, and I was thinking,
you on?
I read his review. It was on Facebook, and I was thinking to myself, well, I haven't seen the show. Is it that good? I'm hearing loads of reports saying it's terrible.
Go ahead. You go.
It's Rotten Tomatoes score. Not that that's worth anything, but its Rotten Tomatoes score is, I think, the joint highest of all Marvel product ever. It's according to the Rotten Tomatoes score, it's as well received as I think Endgame is, even, or Infinity War.
Aimed at teenagers, isn't it?
It is, and you sort of have to wonder about how they get those scores and where they derive them from, and whether or not there's any undue influence going into that. I should say I've not seen this. All I've seen is the stuff around it. That's part of the reason I'm not doing a video on it, because I can't be asked to watch it. But according to the people who created it, if you don't like it, it's because you feel that your identity has been threatened. So I guess I have to ask, Matt, do you feel like your identity has been threatened?
No, not at all.
No, he's a racist.
That's exactly what it is. No, the thing about this show, the good parts about this show are good, but it's like the overarching story. That by the end of this episode, they drop certain storylines. You're like, wait, what about this? You guys didn't explain anything, and you just left it open ended. And then they do something at the end. I don't want to give it away, but it's so ridiculous. And I'm all like, if this is how you are introducing a certain comic book into the MCU, I hates it hard. And then you know, they have a cameo at the very end in the end credits scene, which wasn't bad, but
I
at
think
the
I've seen
same,
this.
yeah, I just go, you should have just done that at the beginning, because in the comic books, and I'm not giving anything away from the
Miss
comic books,
Marvel,
but
I bet you.
yeah, Ms. Marvel, she meets Wolverine. That's the first superhero she meets, and she all fangirls out. So I'm like, oh, that's really cool. But they should have done that cameo at the very first episode.
Mm.
And I'm all like, I don't know. There was reshoots and everything, so obviously they had issues before.
Does she
And
meet Wolverine in this show?
no, which
Oh.
that might have been better too. But she's obsessed with Miss
In a wet
Captain
dream.
Marvel, and it would
Yeah.
Can I
be
ask
way-
a question? Can I ask a question?
No.
Okay.
No.
Yes, of course you can.
Okay, right. So this is a serious question. Okay, is is it Muslim? Is it Muslim?
Yes.
The
Yes.
are they not allowed to have an attractive lead?
No. No.
But no. This is a serious question, right? I
Mhm.
mean, the girl's not ugly, but there are hundreds of actresses out there of the same hue that are far more attractive than this girl and the same age. Why are we not allowed to have an attractive lead anymore?
Body
I'm
positive
not
shit.
asking you, Ian. I'm asking the rest of them.
There's an element of body positivity. So
All right.
I did a preview video of this when the trailer came out, and it was really interesting to see what some of the reaction was from. I didn't realize we had people from the Muslim world watching, but we have a few. And the way in which, when you try to pander to certain communities, it simply doesn't work. Because for the first time ever, I had someone in my videos agreeing with me because they thought that the show in question was haram. In other words, it was sinful and wrong by Islamic doctrine. She's not wearing a veil. She has boyfriends. She's not a proper, in terms of, no, it's wrong to say that this is representative of the entire Muslim community in the West, for example, a large number of whom probably are embodied, by this particular character. In other words, they are believers, but they don't take it as seriously as the serious believers take it. But in terms of whether or not you're allowed to have an attractive character, there's a really difficult conundrum they're facing. You could theoretically have a really attractive character in this show who happens to be Muslim, but to the extent she's incredibly attractive and is not covered up or veiled, she will alienate an entire audience base in the Middle East. But to the extent she is covered up, as they would want it to be, she will have no audience in this country or in the West. So they're in a difficult position with this one. It's sort of been interesting to see them try to navigate this culturally sensitive divide. I think it sounds like they've done a reasonably sensitive job of it, because a large number of Muslims in the West are this kind of moderate type, much like Shias. They are second, third generation immigrants who are trying to mix the constrictions of their own faith with the constrictions of the society they now are brought up in, and that juxtaposition that you find there. But you can't please one and the other at the same time with this character.
So you do, what you have to do is you have to pick a side. You don't. The worst thing you can do is find a middle, and this is what they've done. It's like what's really annoying to me about people of color, and on on TV. No, on TV, the way they're portrayed, it's like Hollywood is saying black people they're not allowed to have their original characters. We have to give them hand-me-downs. They're not good enough to have. No, it's true. They're not good enough to have. Characters made for them, or the black characters that are in comic books, they're not good enough. That's what it comes across to me. And the same thing here as well. Yes, you're in the middle. You don't want to upset this people, don't upset people. Pick a bloody side. If you're gonna make a show like this to attract people, and it's basic, you have to have someone that's quite attractive to attract people beyond what you're, you know what I mean? You have to do that. And to not do that, it seems like it's like they're saying we can't have that. Why can't we have that? Do you know what I mean? It's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. I remember seeing the first picture of her standing in the middle of the crowd was behind. I was thinking, what the hell is she dressed in? One. Two is, could they not have got a better looking girl? I mean, I'm not saying she's ugly or anything, and I don't mean to insult her or anything, but when you look at everything from every Marvel character to the female characters that are in DC and stuff like that, there's not one ugly person at all. I'm not saying she's ugly, but she's middle of the road, right? Chris Evans, Robbie Downey Jr., the gorgeous
Scarlett
her. Do you know what I mean? They're all really good specimens. So why isn't this community allowed to have someone that represents them as a good specimen? It
No,
makes no sense to me.
It's a
Body
really good
positive
point.
stuff.
And like you saw the same thing with that the new Warriors comics were happening and then not happening. And then they make one of the lead characters Indian background, the one who had the magic backpack and was morbidly obese. And apparently this is representation. So
Representation.
I can sort of see where they're going for. And I think to an extent, the thing they're going for with this isn't necessarily bad. What they want to try and do, from what I've seen of this show, is they want to try and really bring home that this is a normal, everyday, run-of-the-mill human being, so not super attractive, not super powerful, who is given these powers, and then she's immediately relatable by virtue of her normality. And I can see what they're going for with that. And also on the sort of the cultural religious side, at least they didn't do what they did with Black Panther, which is portray Africans as loincloth wearing, spear chucking, backward ingrates. So there is at least that, but I completely agree though with what you're saying, which is that superheroes are supposed to be the ideal of the human being and not necessarily to be the normal. Even Peter Parker is, he's a nerd, he's a high school kid, but he is still, as a physical specimen, he's quite remarkable. Which is why they keep having Tom Holland take his shirt off. So it's
he's a good athlete, Tom Holland.
Very much, yes.
This is fantasy though, and this character should be allowed. She should be allowed to be a specimen. I mean, I don't like. Everything you're saying is right as well. But the thing is that you've got to pick a side. And if I was making this, I would pick the side of entertainment and also trying to attract punters. And I would make sure that the woman is fairly attractive so that we can attract male audience to it. It makes no sense to go in the middle. It makes no sense to actually not pick a side. They're trying to find the middle, and it doesn't work. I have no intention of seeing this because
I have. Lucky you.
I can't watch this because it obviously doesn't speak to me, and I think it's a stupid idea anyway. Taking a character that the comic never ever sold, it failed 3 times.
Yes, it did.
You want to bring that to the screen?
That's
Why
the
would you
Marvel
want
way,
to do that?
though, now, isn't it?
And if you want to bring it to the screen, make sure that the main character is bloody hot. Come on.
Okay.
That's kind of indicative as well, isn't it? The fact that the comic book failed 3 times.
It did.
That of all the other successful comic
3 times
books,
the charm.
The one they chose was the abysmal failure. Just quickly though, on the question of powers and things. So away from
we've been talking about this for 10 over 10 minutes.
Sorry. Okay. As quicker than that. Away from the meta stuff though. I mean, in terms of where she fits into the MCU, and again, I haven't watched this show, so I don't know. But do I understand right that she is a mutant in this as opposed to what she's supposed to be in the comics, and that she's effectively one of the kind of precursors to the X-Men?
Yes, and that's the thing that upsets me the most about this. Like, this is the way you're going to introduce mutants into the MCU. I know, spoiler alert, but I'm sorry. Like, it's so ridiculous. And does Kevin Feige hate the Inhumans so much, like that much, that he's not willing to be like, oh, she's an Inhuman? I understand that show was pure garbage. I watched all the
it flopped, didn't it?
Yeah, it was bad. But I'm just like, you're making her a mutant. I'm like, it doesn't make any sense. And then you have this, she's got this bangle in there. I'm like, well, then what was the whole thing with the bangle? Yeah. Because that was supposed to give her powers, and now she's got powers because they're inside of her and all that bullshit. And I'm all like, what's going on here? Like, this is just bad writing. And I just don't understand. Like, I feel like Kevin Feige is losing his grip on things, and he doesn't
He's lost it.
Can I say a couple more real quick things?
Yes.
I promise. I'll be quick. Give me 60 seconds every time. Real quick. Ian, you can say whatever you want because you're a person of color, so you can say that kind of stuff. Second one.
He's a white supremacist as well, don't forget.
Yes. I think that what she's wearing, as far as that, they address it in the show that she kind of dresses modestly because of her religion. So I feel like whatever she wears, it has to be like very like frumpy and like not showing any skin and everything like that. So, also, I want to bring, this show is, by the way, very boring in many sense of the words, but Tim Talks in the chat, he brought up a lot of very good points. As far as her looks goes, she may not have been like a Victoria's Secret model, but she is very charming. It didn't bother me that she wasn't like a super hot chick. And also he said justice for dad bods. I agree with that 100%. Yeah, so that's all I have to say about this show.
In the chat, MC, I'm currently watching Superman and Lois season 2 on iPlayer. That's
very good choice.
If you're in the UK, pretty good. Well done, MC.
Yes, I can't wait for season 3.
Okay, so is what we're
Yeah,
saying.
it's just boring. It's really boring.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. As I said, I watched the first episode,
Did a
first
lot
10
of people
minutes.
watch it though?
yeah,
Did,
and
was,
I
did it get good ratings?
no, in I don't know as far as, but in the Nielsen ratings, it was number 10 its first week, and it only got 249 minutes, million minutes or whatever it is, and it was number
in-
10.
I understand what Tim's saying, and I do concur with what Matt says about her looks, whatever. But on the other side of the coin, you're selling something to people beyond the people that you're trying to attract. You know, no wonder why people are not seeing this. They, you know, there are a lot of people that are not into that religion or not that persuasion, so they're not going to watch it. So what do? You add something in there that can talk beyond that point, but they didn't. And plus, again, they made a show where the comic got cancelled 3 times.
It was not.
Why
good
would
too.
you make it when
Yeah,
it was a flop 3 times?
Yeah, as a reader of those comic books, I only read 9 issues and I had to bail because I was like, I'm not spending $5 a week on this shit. It was bad. It was just bad. Her power structure sucked in the comic book. Her personality, like, she's a 16-year-old girl, a Muslim girl. I can't relate to that. What's going on? There?
No one can unless you're Muslim. I guess.
And a
Like I
16-year-old
said,
girl.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It was shite, is what I'm saying. In the chat, Zero Fox Given, hello. New face, hello. With Ms. Marvel, it's supposed to be a fun show, right? Fun and easy. Did it feel fun or desperate to find relevancy?
That
Probably.
is that
Yeah.
that is, you know, it's the latter, isn't it? It's obviously
I
the
would
latter, and
agree
that's
with
the
that.
reason
Yeah.
why this comic book that fell 3 times is here.
Okay.
And so when you see it at that point, then there's no reason to watch the show at all. There's no reason to even consider it as anything, really. Let's face it.
Okay,
But
moving on. Thank God. Okay, this week's Orville. Who's seen it?
I saw it.
What did
I
you
thought it was
think?
pretty decent. Like, this is the thing. It touched on the Kalons and their origin story and everything.
Yeah, I thought it was okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it was in a story that we've seen we've seen a million times before. Creator creates robot but doesn't treat it like a person, and they overthrow them, kind of thing. And I thought it was fun, even though we had seen it before. But I would just want to say the character of Burke, Lieutenant Burke, she is getting so much screen time, like much
because he's
screen.
boffing her. That's why.
That's my thing. I'm like, don't get me wrong, I like her. She's very hot and everything, but I'm all like, she's getting so much screen time for a newbie to this show. I'm all like, and I much rather focus on some other characters every now and then, like Bordis or Kayla or whatever her name is.
She's the bestest ever. Though,
Yeah,
isn't she?
Like, every time they focus on her, I'm like, why is she going long? I mean, like, she's all right, but I mean, like, I don't get it. But
Walters has done, excuse my French, fuck all this season.
yeah.
And he's a great character. I think he said one line on the Thursday show, and it was great.
Yeah.
2 words. And that was it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So
what was the big? I saw on the internet some unhappiness about, maybe not this episode, but a previous one, about it having devolved essentially into Star Trek Discovery level activism. And
I think they're talking about episode 4.
Oh,
was
okay.
The transitioning episode.
that's the one I bailed.
Yeah, it was.
I've not watched it.
Yeah, they went into that whole thing. They had a kid that was transitioning, and
good.
It went to identity politics. Like, it fast forwarded real quick, and they're like, "Oh, what's going on here? What's going on here, guys?"
In the chat, Isaac Long Blackcock. Hasn't the Orville gone woke now? It has, mate. It has.
Which is such a bummer. Like, I don't know. And I think people have brought it up on this stream before, but I don't know if it was a mandate or whatever, but it is a real big bummer because, I don't know. It's lost its goofiness, I think, a little bit, just in the sense that, like, it's not as fun. Now when I go in, I have to like get my politics hat on. I was like, do I really want to do this now? So
yeah, I think, as I said last week, seasons 1 and 2 from 3-4 years ago, Seth MacFarlane, maverick Star Trek producer, let's have some fun. and it was great.
Yeah.
And then he seems to have got his serious hat on this season.
But it's kind of remarkable. The Boys has much the same thing going on in that, these are clearly writers and directors who have been trying not to inject too much of their own politics into it. But they are quite overtly political and with strong political opinions in their daily life. I mean, The Boys is produced by Seth MacFarlane, so it's not necessarily a surprise when it eventually does lapse into this kind of thing. The surprise is that it's taken so long for it to do that. I still haven't, I must confess, watched any of the Orville. I need to do that at some point, but I'm just hoping Isaac Long Blackhawk doesn't comment again, because that's going to crack me up every time.
Do you want to read
Oh,
it? Would you
God.
like to read it? Do you want to read it? And it's correct, by the way. Would you like to read it?
I can do so. God, from Isaac. From Isaac Long Blackhawk. Are the main YouTube reviewers all completely ignoring the wokeness? I've not heard anything from them about it yet. That could be true. I've not seen it, so I can't comment for other people. But having ignored the show, I'm by definition ignoring the wokeness.
Yeah. Speaking of main YouTubers, like Nerdrotic before this show came out was be like, oh, they're doing great things and everything over there. And then I don't watch his show on the regular, his live streams, but does he talk about that show at all? Because I'm all like, this was a guy that championed that show, and now it's dead silence, and I'm all not anymore. Oh, okay,
yeah, not anymore. He doesn't talk about it anymore. I'm quite surprised he hasn't really. I mean, maybe he's so disappointed of what's going on that he refuses to talk about it, because he got invited on set and everything.
Yeah,
everybody loves it.
Yeah, Seth thought he was, championing the show, and he was championing the show because we loved it at that moment in time. But now it's changed. I've only seen episode 1 of this season, and I thought episode 1 was good, but everybody's telling me it's gone woke.
Well, I would say our channel is the only one who's calling this woke about 3 weeks ago with that episode, and I was kind of attuned to it because somebody in I think it was the week before that episode that I bailed, put it in the channel's chat saying it's woke, nobody's noticing it, and I thought, what? And then that episode dropped, and I thought,
I'm quite surprised that Drinker hasn't pulled up on it.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I don't think he's ever watched it. I don't think he's watched it.
Yeah, he probably hasn't watched it. You're probably right.
I can sort of sympathize with that, though, given how much utter horseshit there is at the moment. I mean, the last 2 weeks, I've been looking at the slate of stuff coming out and thinking, Jesus, I have no time to actually watch anything. So Resident Evil, that is famously one of the worst things ever created for TV. Thor has come out. We've had Obi-Wan, of course, a few weeks before that. It's a conveyor belt of stuff that doesn't really allow reviewers like The Drinker to devote their attention to stuff they might not have started yet. So I can sort of sympathize with his position. Maybe it's for the best, though, that he hasn't started, if he hasn't started it, if it is going in this direction.
Cam, hello Cam. YouTube's stuntman at Mr. Brown Alliance asked me, yes, really fun season 1 and 2, different direction this season, taking themselves seriously now, yes, and introducing the wokeness. Still good though, but there's a caveat to it. So anyway, shall we move on?
Yeah.
Resident Evil.
Speaking of the worst thing ever created.
I haven't watched it. I wasn't gonna watch it. I was like, no.
Anybody seen this? Apparently it's bad. Anybody in the chat seen this? Can they comment in the chats?
Chat should get in on this. I have had it on. I had it on in the background while I was editing my Thor review.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't paying much attention to it. The fact it didn't distract me from the Thor review is not a good sign, because it means it wasn't gripping at all anyway. But every time I looked up, it looked like an entirely different show than the one I saw 5 minutes ago. So at times it's sort of Resident Evil as you vaguely remember it from those awful Mia Jovovich films. And at times it's like high school teenage angst drama. And some of the dialogue in this is quite special. It's special with the capital 7. And it's just... I want to sort of go back and actually pay it full attention, because I don't think I've appreciated quite how horrifically bad it is. But from the glimpses of it I had while I had it on, it was pretty bad.
There's no reason for this show at all. Basically,
No.
Netflix is grabbing onto things that they think that can drag viewers in. Resident Evil's a big computer game. Resident Evil made a lot of money, the films, with what's her name in it. So why not make it into a TV show? Let's make it into TV. Then they hire stupid people to write the script, and then you're going downhill from there. So this is probably what's happened.
It's another one of those weird examples where they seem to consciously hate the source material, because they don't even call the zombie things zombies in this, do they? They call them something like what do they call them?
Dead people?
No, they call them like Zetas or something.
Non-living dead people.
They've changed the whole nomenclature of the thing to avoid
Labour
any reference.
voters.
Labour voters, yeah.
But that's the thing, you see. This is what they're doing. They hire people with the agenda in mind, and now they think they're clever by changing certain things and hoping that we won't notice or people that watch it won't notice. But people are far more clever than they're giving them credit for.
Oh yeah.
And so they're noticing this stuff. I mean, Lord, you notice all that stuff, and you weren't even watching it properly. So it's just stupidity on their part. That's all. They're not going to listen to us. They're going to carry on doing it until they run, until they don't make any money anymore. Then figure out what they're doing wrong.
In the chat, Zero Fox Given. I've tried. It's so fucking bad.
Well,
I watched that movie that they did. It was bad enough. I'm not watching.
Yeah, the last movie they made was absolute rubbish.
Yeah, it was horrible.
Nonsense. Even though I like the main actress that was in it.
Yeah, she's nice to look at.
MC in the chat, it's got 3.5 on Internet Movie Database.
Oh, that's awful. If
that's
IMDb is
brutal,
giving
is
it
that?
3.5, that's like IGN giving something lower than a 5. That's pretty bad.
Quickly going back on the Orville, Isaac Long Blackcock. If the Orville featured a planet of white people called Honky Prime, I might start watching. I think everybody would. Okay, so zombies are not my thing. I'm not going to watch it anyway.
See, I love zombie stuff. Zombie stuff's fantastic because it reminds me of commuting in London. But it's just how can you make zombies boring? But they've apparently, or ridiculous even. They've apparently managed to do that. That's quite something.
All they need to do is emulate a classic Romero movie.
Yes.
Thank you, Matthew. I was just about to say, I think I kind of got my zombie stuff out of my system with all the kind of video nasty stuff when VHSs first appeared. All the Romero stuff, like zombie flesh eaters and all that.
Yeah, but as The Walking Dead proves, right, it's not about the zombies, it's about the people around the problem. Yeah. And Walking Dead did that beautifully for the first 4 or 5 seasons, and then it just went downhill. But that's what it's about. It's not about the zombies, it's about the people that reside in the show.
Diverse people. Lord, do you want to read Zero Fox's comment?
There's some fantastic names in the chat this evening. Zero Fox Given, it doesn't know what it wants to be. Lost Chord is totally right. When am I not? Oh. It tries to be so many different things, but none of them are Resident Evil.
It's not your mother, is it? Hello, Mrs. Lord.
Given that I exist, it can't be Zero Fox Given, but it's just it's just utterly bizarre. I mean, that geek's absolutely right, but the point of zombie films is supposed to be ultimately, once you get past the idea of zombies, zombies exist. Zombies are an environmental threat, and you can do a lot with environmental threats. But the real thing that draws you into the story is the people dealing with that environmental threat. The Walking Dead, after season 4, 5, when it was on it forgot the environmental threat. It went too much into, I think, the caricature of evil in the human characters, but it still understood the basic point, which is that the humans are the things you're watching it for. Whereas Resident Evil doesn't give a shit about its zombies, but it also doesn't give a shit from what I've seen about its characters either, in that it doesn't have any. So, and it also seems to think that the T-virus, which creates zombies, is not as bad as the coronavirus. So, hooray. It's the one thing that would have made COVID more interesting if in lockdown we'd had zombies around. That would have been great fun.
If we have our 5th round of injections, mate, we'll be there, don't worry. Time Profits, I think this is the problem. Zombies are not diverse enough. That's probably what the problem is, Time Profit.
Honestly, the whole problem is the agenda. Everything we're going to talk about now, it's going to be the problem, the core of the problem of everything to do with pop culture is the agenda. Let's
down
face
the
it.
fucking toilet, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'd be really surprised if at some point in this series they didn't say, well, the T virus is disproportionately affecting Black and minority communities. So really, the zombies are a racist problem. Like gay people are more likely to contract the virus. So actually, zombies are homophobic. Like I could imagine them doing that. That's the kind of thing this series would do.
Oh dear.
Okay, moving on then. Oh,
Speaking of zombies.
Lord Charles, news round.
Is that your
dark-
sister, by the way, Lord?
Beautiful, isn't she? Beautiful. We'll just give Time Prophet the last comment over the zombie stuff.
This one, I think that's an exceptionally spicy comment.
The T virus is the trans virus. Thank you, Time Prophet.
I think for the sake of your channel, you have to disavow, but nevertheless recognize the comment.
Time Prophet's a tosser, but we like him. And those are not the views of the channel. They're Time Prophets. Anyway. Okay, live and let live is my motto. So we've some Musk news. It's not going through, is it? And now
Twitter's in trouble.
He is being sued by Twitter because they've realized their company isn't as valuable as they thought it would or is.
They're going to lose. They're going to lose if they try to sue him.
They're suing him in Delaware, which has very specific sets of rules as regards the disclosure of corporate information. His contention from the start was, I want to buy it, and then it morphed into, well, I want to buy it based on the valuation I've been provided, but of course, if a significant part of your user base is bots or spam accounts, then the value of the company is less than it is, so show me the information. Twitter tried to show him or said they'd shown him the information. It seems, from what I read, the way they do this is they have no AI, they have no machine learning algorithm, they have no computerized automated system to do this. What they do is they take 100 random users every day, just 100 of however many hundreds of users, hundreds of millions, of users they have, and they just look at those 100 of users as though they are representative of the whole. This was the whole point from the beginning, really, with Twitter's valuation. Musk has basically said, I'm not buying it on these premises. They've said, well, you've agreed it, so you have to. And we've now gone from Twitter saying no, Musk saying yes, to Musk saying no, Twitter saying yes, to Twitter saying Twitter suing Musk into him saying yes, but he won't say yes unless the court forces him to do so. The worst that can happen to him, though, I believe, is that the get out clause in this contract, the sale contract, is $1 billion, which is nothing to him, given he was going to buy it for 40.43, was it? I think billion even. So he's going to come out of this fairly well. He will drive the share price down, which has already happened. If he were to try or someone were to try and purchase it after that, it would be on a substantially lower value. So that's been good. There have apparently been backroom discussions on Twitter staff basically saying, well, even if he doesn't buy it, maybe we should start taking people like him seriously and change the way we do things as regards the bias we have toward left-wing and right-wing people. So he's achieved something. I just don't think it was entirely unpredictable. I think we said on this stream months ago when this was first mooted, all of this depends on whether Elon Musk means what he's saying. And this court case will hopefully establish whether he does.
Well, it's whatever happens, Twitter's in trouble anyway. So, and if he's, if he decides to buy it, then because of this, all he'll do is just fire everybody, wouldn't he?
They're all out of a job.
Fire everyone, wouldn't he?
It just sounds like it's not being run professionally. It's just just winging it. Swappers, what do you think? I know you're a big Twitter user.
Yeah, I don't really care about who runs it, just as long as it's fair. But I honestly thought, when Musk said, I thought it was finalised already. I thought this was all done and dusted, because all the wokies in the offices there were sort of running around with their hair on fire, weren't they, for like a couple of weeks? So I don't know what the situation is there now with the people in the offices, but I don't know if they're all breathing a sigh of relief and then going back to their woke ways and enforcing their their quiet rules over all the users. I don't know, but I'm hoping that what Musk has done is kind of shaken it up a little bit and exposed things for
who they are,
for what they are. Yeah. And maybe, without them knowing, improved the platform somewhat, but done it in a very stealthy way. I guess that's one way of doing it, but I don't know. I mean, without Musk being actually in direct control, I don't know if Twitter can really change for the better, to be honest. But I prefer him to just buy YouTube and make that better, because it's
absolutely 100%. Yes, I agree.
Matt Cat, anything to add before we move on?
I mean, no, not really. No, you guys said everything.
We'll move on then. Elon, buy YouTube instead.
Just very good on that YouTube.
And remake point, Space 1999, please.
That would also be good. On the YouTube point, though, that's incredibly important. So very few people make a living off of Twitter. It's a good way of amplifying your voice, but no one earns a huge amount of money off of Twitter. No one supports anybody else on Twitter. I don't know if anyone in chat has seen Shadowversity's video yesterday about what YouTube is doing to his channel and to other creators as well.
No, please tell me.
So essentially, his channel, and he's got, I think he's got up to or slightly over 1 million subscribers, to the point where he supports 4 or 5 other people with the income he earns. So he has a small business basically based on YouTube revenue. YouTube is now, it seems to be anyway, throttling his channel and other channels on similar content. While, as they announced at various different corporate events, prioritizing and pushing out what they call authoritative sources, essentially saying YouTube is overtly and constitutionally biased in favor of, for example, mainstream news companies, at the expense of people like Shad, who does really, really quirky, interesting, fun content, which is, it's not offending anyone. The guy's a medieval enthusiast. He likes swords. His channel is fantastic. The videos he does is fantastic. He supports 5 people. 5 people's livelihoods depend on this guy. And YouTube is now strangling his channel to the point where he might not be able to continue doing that. So that's not just his channel taking a hit. That is the livelihoods of 4 or 5 other people taking a hit as well.
Is this what Melvin's saying?
I don't know who Jason Hinkle is, so I couldn't possibly say. It's not beyond the realms of possibility. But the point being, and Elon Musk won't buy YouTube because it's one thing to buy Twitter, a private company. It's another thing to lift YouTube off of Google. But the point is roughly the same. The reason Twitter is failing, the reason Twitter is in trouble, is exactly the same as the thing that YouTube is doing. The difference being that YouTube actually supports people's livelihoods and Twitter doesn't. And ideally, what you want is somebody like Elon Musk to start shaking up the tech sector more broadly. And if hopefully, even if he doesn't buy Twitter, even if he creates this kind of this upheaval within the cultural clique that runs Twitter, that might find its way through to other big tech companies and maybe will rejig some minds at YouTube as well. Because at the moment, the very thing that makes YouTube what it is, the thing that makes it as big as it is, the thing that everyone goes to it for, which is independent content creators, giving you niche, fantastically produced stuff, not to mention my own channel.
Like the show, yes.
That is the kind of thing that YouTube is currently strangling deliberately in order to pander to legacy media and corporate interests. And if it carries on doing that, it will kill itself. But more importantly, it will kill a large number of small businesses. It will kill a large number of incomes for a large number of really invested creators who really do add something of value to the internet. And there's precious little of that around at the moment. So hopefully that will change. But I thought I'd mention the Shad video and go and check it out because it's a good video and she's sort of pushing the righteous cause. And I think everyone should go and support
this channel was ghosted for a long time. Still relatively ghosted. It cost me money to produce these shows, and I've had nothing. And it's the old point is to help people like us to try and be better, to try and get. But YouTube just strangles us, so it's just they're just not very good boss. Effectively, they don't even give you notifications or anything. It's just
no.
I've had notifications for say the Critical Drinker for his videos 2 days after it was out. You get a notification on the phone. Check out the new. It's 2 days ago. I've already done it. Just not on it at all, and it's just not helping anybody unless if you're a massive channel who you've got the subs that will watch
But that's
put
the thing,
something out and they'll watch.
Even big channels are not immune to this. So Shadowversity has, I think he's got something like 1.2 million subscribers. So that's a big channel. And he is, one of his videos the other day he put out, which was, objectively something that everyone goes to watch him for, got only something like 40,000 views in a week. And, my channel has 10,000 subs, and that's middling performance for us. But for someone with 1.2 million subs, who ideally gets at least 100,000 views in a day,
just rub it in, mate.
No, but that's the point.
You've changed, Lord.
The point is, the reason Shad got big, the reason Mulder and the Drinker get big, the reason Sargon of Akkad got big, Destiny, Vorsh, whoever you want to name, whatever political persuasion, is that YouTube never used to do this, and it created this whole plethora of content providers who educate people and provide real worthwhile content on the internet, like really informative stuff, well produced. Even the big channels now are starting to feel the rub of YouTube's overt bias in content promotion.
That's not good, is it?
And that's not good at all, because that will just turn YouTube into essentially one massive corporate advertising program where the only people who get views are the New York Times, CNN, Fox, and Disney. And we don't want that, because YouTube will die if that happens. But we will all have died on YouTube before it dies. So,
Time Prophet, this is me. You say it's ghosted, but I get alerts every time. I think it's ghosted because it never comes up in searches.
Right.
It's the algorithm. Anyway, moving on. Okay, Lord Chord's Love and Blunder video dropped today, so
and it's
obviously fresh off that. This article is the second. Is this the second weekend?
It is.
Isn't it? The takings have tanked big time, haven't they?
Not big time. It's made a lot of money.
68% drop.
Yeah, well,
no, it deserves
it. Drop, but it's still the other films are holding this one up. So all the films they're releasing after this film, that's how it works. The other films will be holding this one up, and then they will lie through their teeth saying it wasn't a failure, it was a success, and then they'll probably carry on, wouldn't they? And that's the way Disney operates, I think.
Yeah, nothing came out this weekend.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I was just going to say, nothing came out this weekend to
Will many people watch this for the second time? Because that's traditionally where the money comes from, isn't it?
No, unless I get dragged to the cinema by another girl saying she wants to go see Chris Helmsworth in, without his shirt, then yeah, but
and without his trousers, as you guys say.
Well, it got pixelated out, didn't it, that bit? So
not the one I saw.
Okay. Okay. It's just the film is just. It's just not funny, and it's just a waste of everybody's time as far as I'm concerned. It really is. The
real tragedy is it tries to be so funny.
Oh, it's just titty, isn't it?
Yeah.
And at the expense of a story, because it doesn't have a story. That's the ultimate crime. It's building to nothing. You don't need to watch this film to understand what will happen in subsequent Marvel films. Like, if you go back to phase 1, 2, and 3, you can forgive the odd dud entry like Iron Man 3. Because you at least know it's building to something.
A masterpiece compared to the shit we've had.
And you cannot say that about this film. You do not need to see this film. This film adds nothing. It actually takes away from a lot.
It does.
It's really destructive as an approach to filmmaking. Before we get to that comment, Melvin in the chat asked what channel I was referring to, I think, earlier. That's Shadowversity. I can type it in comments if you like. Shadowversity.
Yeah, you can put it. Yeah, can you do that? Yeah.
I can do so. That's what we're thinking. He's brilliant.
Sticky Belly Flapcock. Does Korg have a rock wiener?
No,
he got blown up, didn't he? And then he grew himself back again, or something like that.
Plus, they wouldn't need a wiener. They don't make babies the way we do.
Is he?
Yeah, they revealed that, didn't they? Later on at the end of the film, that's how they make babies.
Is he related to Geode?
Oh, probably.
You know what? It is such a badly written script at the start of.
Hello, Sticky.
Oh yeah.
Narrating it. It's just absolute. The film is absolutely. It's dross, basically. That's what it is. It's just nonsense.
And the comic book, the Gore the God Butcher comic book is so freaking good. I love that. I just recently, before the movie came out, I reread it. And it's so good, and they had such an opportunity to turn that into a good storyline, and they just wasted it. They wasted it.
Do you know what, though? When you think about it, there are very few superhero films that have actually been great. Superman the movie, fantastic. Spider-Man 2, bloody brilliant.
Captain America's.
Captain America, the
Oh, I
Captain
love
America
Captain
films
America.
were terrific, right? They were, but everything
Thor
else
one.
was just okay. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it takes a special kind of director and a special kind of writer and a special kind of producing team to actually produce something that's very close to the original material. It's when they don't know the material, they give you something like Thor, Love and Thunder. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's a huge bummer. Like I read it, I reread it, and I was just like, "Oh, this could be really, really good." And then I watched. I was like, "I take it back. It's bad."
In the chat, Z3PO, hello Z, he's put a link to the Lord's Love and Blunder review.
I think that's the Shad's channel, actually.
Oh, it is. Still, though,
Definitely go and watch that.
It is a waste of time.
It is, yeah. No, but you're right. So, the interesting thing is, if you say take the Ang Lee Hulk film,
yeah,
which was a standalone superhero film, very shortly before Shadowversity, very shortly before the MCU properly kicks off.
I just recently rewatched that today with my son.
Yeah, but no one really gave a shit about that at the time because superheroes on their own, when it comes to films in particular, you know, if you treat them as standalone entries, they trade on cliche. They're all they're not very imaginative. They don't really tell new stories in interesting ways. The reason the MCU worked was because it sort of acknowledged that, but it tried to tie in every individual film, even if it was cliche, even if it was just a bog standard superhero thing, into this broad story, which made everything matter more because the overarching story made it more important.
I agree, but I think the intention behind the films, the first few films, was pure, right?
Yeah,
it wasn't tainted. I mean, Kevin Feige wanted to make. Yeah, he wanted to make the films like the comic books, and for Iron Man, he actually achieved. He updated a lot of stuff in Iron Man, obviously, but it was a good update. Do you know what I mean? And the same thing with the Hulk, right? So if you look at Ang Lee's film, Ang Lee has no idea about comic books, so he basically put panels in because he thought it looked really cool and it looked shit. You know what I mean? And a big poodle fight at the end. It was stupid, right? But if you look at the Marvel Incredible Hulk, right? Yes, the story wasn't good. Yes, the CGI was good, but the best thing about that film was Ed Norton's version of Bruce Banner.
Yeah,
I felt so much for that character.
Okay.
I wanted him to escape. It's a shame that he pissed it up, him personally. But you can tell that Marvel was trying to create something that was trying to be like the comics. After the 10 years had gone and they reached the climax with Endgame,
should have left it for
that was
5
it.
years.
That was it.
I mean, I make basically that point in my review. They should have stopped at Endgame and then allowed time to build, recreate the same thing that went into the planning of the Avengers arc. Take time for the audience to take in everything that just happened, recharge, as you say, and build anticipation. In the meantime, you have a team of writers that are planning out the entirety, ideally, of what the next big arc is supposed to be. And after an appropriate period of time...
there isn't one, is there?
Well, that's the point. They didn't take a break. They thought, well, we have to keep filling the seats. So let's have Multiverse of Madness, which adds nothing and detracts significantly. And then Thor, Love and Thunder. I thought Multiverse of Madness would be the worst Marvel film I've seen this year. And then Thor, Love and Thunder comes along. And it's just, not only is it incomprehensible in its own right, but it seems to hate the idea of telling a story. It really doesn't want to do that. All it wants to do is to say to you, the audience, yeah, you and I know that this is all silly, kind of shitty, pappy crap. And so we can laugh at this, can't we? Look at all these established characters and their romances and their relationships. And we can just laugh at all of that.
Titty put a tweet out ages ago saying he was going to subvert everything.
He said, I'll destroy your mythos.
Another thing, Lord, right, is did you not notice in this film that everything was studio based? Everything. Everything. They didn't go anywhere. Like if you look at the first Thor, they were actually in that town. You could feel the sand under that guy's feet. Everything. He was out. They were outside. In this one, right, they had a few outside shots, but majority of the stuff was just green screen.
Yeah.
And you didn't feel you were there. You didn't feel anything for that film at all, especially because the script was absolute rubbish.
Yeah.
You know, nothing. You could take nothing seriously because it was just covered in jokes.
No, the entire thing was designed to stop you from getting invested in the story. It actually was scared of the idea that the audience should inhabit the world it's depicting or care about the characters it's depicting. Its whole thing was about saying, you and I, the director, Taika, we're standing at a remove and we are laughing at what
he's
we
a
are
clever
seeing on
cunt.
screen.
That's his problem.
That's all that's happening. But the thing is, if you compare it to Ragnarok, for example, and I think that's a really useful comparison to make, because I know and I understand a lot of the problems people have with Ragnarok, because, and I say in the review, this is sort of the point where, okay, it was quite funny in places, but there's always the danger that you learn the wrong lessons from that, like with the Force Awakens as well. It's popular because it seems superficially entertaining, but actually the studio will learn all the wrong lessons from that. But if you compare the approach of Ragnarok, which Taika Waititi did not write, he just directed it, to the approach of Love and Thunder, which he wrote and directed, you see the importance of having someone with some mind to story. The humor in Ragnarok is largely in universe. It still tries to invite you in. The jokes make sense in the universe between the characters they're taking place between. Whereas in Love and Thunder, the entire thing is, well, we can laugh at this because we're standing outside the universe and we can watch them do it. And so we know that Thor is just this parody character now. And we know that we should laugh at the fact that he's lost his family and his planet and all his friends and all the rest of that. We can laugh at that from the outside, but it makes no sense when you try to inhabit the character himself. Yeah. And so there's no reason to be invested in this story because there isn't a story in the first place, but also the entire structure of the humor is designed to stop you inhabiting it in that way. It's one of the worst written things I think I can ever recall. It's deliberately pointless. It's deliberately flippant.
I agree with you. Totally agree with you.
In the chat, Melvin, I enjoyed the Eric Bana Hulk movie. Always thought it was one of the better ones. Really didn't like the Norton one. Tim Roth was awful in it, as was everyone else.
No, I disagree. I think what you call it, Ed Norton's version of Bruce Banner was incredible. I thought his performances was good. I really did feel sorry for him running, trying to just have a normal life or trying to cure himself. And that was the whole point of the Hulk, especially when the comic was released, the very first comic. It was mostly the Frankenstein story. It was mostly the Frankenstein story, but it was mostly about a man that's trying to cure himself. And that's exactly what the Incredible Hulk did. And in Ang Lee one, he was trying to do that, but they just filled it with such nonsense. It was just ridiculous. But anyway, that's just
Zero Fox Given. The other thing is, Titty has always had one goal: to promote NZ actors, NZ culture, NZ people. His purpose isn't creative; it's business and personal nepotism at the sake of I can't say it. And shagging two birds at once. Yes.
But hold on, right? Didn't anyone say to them when they're writing a script, wait a moment, Thor gives kids his power? Why didn't he do that in Endgame? Why didn't anyone say that?
There's a whole
that would
section,
be my first thing.
Yeah. There's a whole section in my review basically saying, well, this seems incredibly useful. Where else could we have used this power? Oh, Endgame, Ragnarok, the second Thor film, the first Thor film, the first Avengers film he could have done. So there are so many ways in which this power could be incredibly useful. This is the problem with being so careless about the systems you're creating. If you have no regard for rules as it comes to magic, Doctor Strange has a similar problem, but not to this degree. Whenever a film like this comes along and says, we're only going to do this because we think it will be funny, it means you look back at all the other films and you say, well, why the fuck didn't you do it then? That would have been good.
For this, made the same mistake, right? It made the same mistake as the Wonder Woman did. So the first Wonder Woman film was really good, and then they gave Paddy all that power, and
all the power.
Terrible. It was terrible. Same thing with this one. They gave Titty all that power, and this is what he did with it.
Yeah, you always need no people around that'll be like, I don't know, people that'll just tickle your taint. Those people you don't want around all the time. Like
it's the George Lucas paradox. Like he's a brilliant creative mind, but he's not good when he's left to his own devices. You need someone to actually give him a story which he can then innovate on. He provides the impetus, he provides the characters, the settings, the world, but he needs someone else to write the story for him and then to operate as a director within the bounds set by that story. And that's why Taika Waititi's early stuff, which has constraints on it, whether they're budgetary or whether they're written by other people, they're quite enjoyable. I like Hunt for the Wilder People, for example. I think that's a really charming film, but it's really limited by its budget, by the constraints of the story. The problem is you give Waititi sole creative direction and hundreds of millions of pounds, dollars even, and you just get this. All he wants to do is tell cheap jokes. It's not good.
He was the worst thing in Free Guy, in my
Mhm.
opinion. I thought he was so irritating, but it was obvious that he was trying to be funny and he wasn't. And the same thing in this as well. He was trying to be funny with that rock thing, and it was just ridiculous.
Which speaking, go ahead.
And there's no point, what's her name?
Tessa Thompson.
Tessa Thompson. If you pull Tessa Thompson out of that script, it would have made no difference to the story whatsoever. Why is she there? Why is she there?
Sucks a mean fatty. Okay,
Yeah, she does.
so let's move on.
Well, can I just say one more thing? If you give me 30 seconds of your time, I love
3,
that
2,
they put
1.
out this 30 seconds. Yeah, they put out that video of them like talking about the visual effects.
Yeah.
And they just shit all
Right
over it.
off.
And then there was that article. There was a bunch of articles on that subreddit where the visual effects artists are like, Marvel is the worst. They treat us like we're slaves and everything. And you're all like, oh man, this doesn't look good. This video is so cringe now.
Shall we give the last word to Geralt of Trivia?
Do it.
I love Tessa Thompson. So expressive, especially when she's
too true.
moving her lips.
Yeah, to be fair, she has I think 4 different facial expressions in this film. So,
But you know what, right? Saying all that, I've seen her in films where she's been really good performance-wise.
Yeah, agreed.
She is a good actress. It's just that now, because of this, this wave of rubbish that's going through our pop culture, that she thinks she's above it all. So, but I know.
She's got the slapped ass persona.
She's a good-looking woman.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you can't take that away from her.
No,
And if she was given a decent, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say I thought she was very attractive in this film, but
yeah, she is.
I'm not straight, so what does that say?
Can I ask you guys one more question? There is a Waititi cut that's like 4 hours. Would you guys want to see that?
No.
I don't want to watch the normal version.
Why would I? Didn't even want to watch the 2-hour version.
Yeah, the way to look at that is, okay, the 2-hour version is this bad. So the 4-hour version contains stuff he didn't think was good enough for the 2-hour version. How much worse can it possibly be?
Right on.
Really worse. Really bad.
Not Brian. She's no Daisy Ridley. Agreed. Okay, so we'll move on. Top Gun news, everybody. The weekly Top Gun news. It's still making shitloads of money.
Yeah.
And
don't make the mistake of making another one, please. Leave it at that.
I agree.
I was thinking about that when I was doing my shopping in Aldi and I was walking home with my carrier bags. I think there could be Top Gun 3. Something to do with, Miles Teller, Goose's son, and the kind of story between him and Tom Cruise, Pete Maverick. But it would have to be the right story. And it would have to, if it's told well and it's a good story with obviously the kind of military action that we want, I think it could do well, but they should only make one more if it's a good story, then that's it.
The thing is, though, it could do well, but still it will destroy what we, this film. You've got to stop here. You've got to stop here. Otherwise,
it's the patriotic thing, though. That's
no, but it's not the point. The point is they should have stopped Star Wars from being, The Force Awakens and what follows after The Force Awakens literally destroyed Star Wars. And it'll be the same thing here, because what they do is they scramble for a decent story to be the second one of this. And let me tell you something, there isn't a decent story after this. They came, they saw, and they done, right? It's the same thing with Terminator. It should have stopped at 2. But yet they kept doing the same thing over and over again, thinking that things will change. If you're doing the same thing over and over again, nothing's going to change. So they should stop right here. If Tom Cruise has a brain, he should stop right here.
I think that Mr. Cruise would only let it happen if it was the right story. But I'm kind of thinking that it's not going to happen.
I hope not.
It'd be yeah, could go either way.
Well, Tom
He'll
Cruise
go
does have a
woke.
brain. It's just taken over by aliens.
It'll go woke. You know it'll go woke. I mean, if Tom Cruise says, I don't want to make it, and then the studio goes, oh, let's make it. You know, you'll get some writer in there and it'll just go woke.
Paramount's biggest ever movie. They made all the original Marvel stuff as well. Let's not forget.
They were responsible for distributing it. They didn't make it; they distributed them.
Yeah.
I think they will try to make another one. It's a
I hope
bummer,
not.
but I think they will. They'll be like, all they care about is money, so they'll try. They'll try for another one, and it won't.
It's
be
like
as good.
as I said, it was like the Rocky movies when they
yeah.
had the black chap. I can't remember his name now.
Creed.
And, you know, it was like no,
Jordan.
yeah. Why? You know what I mean? And it's just like, oh, it's a fight at the ending. Oh, okay. And then the second one, oh, it's a fight at the ending. Oh, okay. You know, it's you're telling the same story again and again and again. Same thing they did with Terminator. It's the same story. You know, if you haven't got anything original to say, stop. You know, and, you know, otherwise you'll destroy what was before it. Your appreciation of what was before it will be tainted by something that, because it's part of
Can we agree to disagree?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Okay.
Although, I just want to say one more thing. If they did make a third one, I would be there opening weekend. I would be.
The story. If the story is good, I think it could do well, and then they should get out of Dodge. But that's just me.
If Tom Cruise says no to it and they decide to make it anyway, you can bet your bottom dollar it's going to be rubbish.
If there's no Tom Cruise, there's no Top Gun. Simple.
Yeah, but he's what is he, pushing 60 now? Or is he
he's
60?
60 now. I think he made $50 million from this.
Well, he doesn't need any more money, does he?
Nobody
Let's face it. Yeah, he doesn't.
They're still making Rocky films though, so he could, you know, in 20 years' time, be the flight instructor teaching a diverse male lead how to fly an F-38, whatever it will be at that time.
The picture on the right is his arrival at the Royal International Air Show this weekend, because he's into his aviation, and I think it was the 75th anniversary of the United States Air Force. So
why didn't he try and go there in secret? You know, because there's a lot of stars that do go to things like that, and they just basically go there in secret.
Everybody loves Tom, don't they? Because it was at Wimbledon the weekend before.
I know, it's like,
everybody loves him.
Well, you know, if you don't want to be bothered, just go there in secret, isn't it?
Okay. So Top Gun's still making plenty of money. I keep saying I want to go see it again. Maybe
I've seen
I should.
It twice. That was enough for me.
Yeah, maybe I should go see it again when I could do with the air conditioning. So, anything anybody want to add before we move on?
I have nothing.
I had nothing.
Okay, so the Top Gun has made tons of money because the Americans love it, because it's very, very patriotic.
We do. We love it.
I think Ian had hand experience of that, didn't you? You went to see Top Gun.
Went to see Top Gun in Dallas and came out to cinema and waiting for a pee because there was a line, and some guy must have been in his like 60s, 70s tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, it was a great film, wasn't it? What do you think?" Being a Brit, what do you think? You know, he was just going on about how great it was. You know, very patriotic and stuff.
So to counter that, I saw this on Twitter this week. The US military, they're just bending to the woke knee, aren't they?
Yeah, it's really weird.
What were they doing? Marching in front of pride flags, no American flags in sight. That's not going to go well, is it? Because a lot of Americans are very patriotic, aren't they?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy bones. Like I don't understand people that don't like. I don't understand. Like, being an American, it's very. Oh, sorry, my kids are going crazy. Give me 2 seconds.
That's all right. I wonder what he was going to say.
Sorry, my daughter she's having a fit. I think it's because they have to go to bed in a half hour, and she's upset. But I don't remember where I saw it, heard it, but people were saying the American flag like gives them, you know, trauma or whatever, and I'm all like, what? I'm like, I don't understand. Like, it's right now I understand that. Well, I don't understand it, but it's fashionable to hate America, and I don't understand that because like I hear all these things about like, you know, Canada, you know, they have these vaccine mandates and like taking your guns away and all this stuff. And I'm all like, and you know, freedom of speech, like no other country has like the same rights that I don't know if you can still hear my daughter. She's like freaking out. But,
No, you can't.
Okay, great. It's like we have so many rights and it's so great. And I don't understand why everybody thinks that's such a huge problem.
Not everyone does.
I love America.
Matt.
It's great.
Yeah.
But no, it's only the people that are in charge of pop culture and newspapers and stuff like that, and they're very, very small compared to the majority of America. I know loads of Americans that are so patriotic that it's I find it unbelievable. So I refuse to believe that the majority of people are in line with this crap. Basically,
it's the minority
Yeah.
driving it again.
When Ronald Reagan says, you know, America is the shining city on the hill, it's one of the most truthful words ever spoken by a politician. It is, and has always been. And that's why, you know, when you get pro-democracy protesters in Hong Kong today fighting against the Chinese Communist Party, the two flags they're waving are the British and the American flags, because British for their of course recent cultural and historical also their recent history, should we say, but the American flag because America still represents certain ideals in a way that no other country has ever managed, including our own, speaking as Britishers. Lots of people in the third world, but lots of people in the third world, lots of people in places that don't enjoy these rights, that are still, you know, severely oppressed by their governments, by their states, and by their ideological systems, look to the United States still to this day as the example, the shining city on the hill, this thing that you look to guide you in your future. It's tragic that a large part of the American political leadership doesn't believe that anymore, and it does actually, though, increasingly have practical effects for this story, for example, and same in this country. In this country, we are having a significant and really difficult to solve recruitment problem in the armed forces. We are simply not recruiting enough people to the army as we need to sustain the armed forces. That's a real issue. And part of the reason for that is because back in 2004 or 5, after the invasion of Iraq, there was a report done on the impact that had on the British population and how they viewed the armed forces of their country. And that review concluded that the new generation, the next generation, the people you are looking to defend your own country, have the lowest rates of trust in the armed forces. They do not want to sign up because they have been taught largely in schools to hate the patriotic values the army is supposed to instantiate. And it's not just, I don't think it's as simple as saying that the army has become woke. The army has always been, especially in America, quite at the forefront of massive social change. So the army had gay soldiers way before gay marriage existed. Homosexuality was accepted in the army in the United States way before Bill Clinton even took power. That's where Don't Ask, Don't Tell comes from. And the army has always been quite progressive, especially in the US, but you always have this slightly conservative element which says, well, all we want really is people who are up to the job. We just don't want the army to become a social justice unit, because it shouldn't be that. I mean, Colin Powell, who was formerly head of the army, then head of defense, I think, in the US, said much the same thing, but was broadly against going too far with the social justice stuff, but didn't oppose per se gay people joining the armed forces. When you, however, start getting to the point where you have everyone parading in front of pride flags, that turns the army into something else. The issue of showering together isn't necessarily a problem. Americans back in, again, the Iraq War were really shocked to discover that the the UK armed forces actually had mixed-sex shower facilities basically from the off, and with no problems that the Americans assumed
the army,
would happen.
isn't it? Yeah.
Indeed. It's not the problem isn't that sexes can mix in shower facilities, the UK has proven that that's not an issue. The problem is what that is aimed at and why that's being used by the PR division of the armed forces to market the armed forces to young people. That's where the problem comes in. But the UK has had no problem with integrated sex armed forces in the way that the US has had. So that's not the issue. It's also not the issue. I mean, I think, who was it? Someone in chat said, where was it? Let me just scroll up. There was something which I thought was quite interesting about dividing the LGBT lot into a different form of the armed forces. Just as an interesting, I think, historical point, there was back in ancient Greece, there was a really, really famous military division called the Ancient Band of Thebes, which Plato wrote about favorably, and that
He's good, isn't he?
That armed forces group was composed entirely of homosexual men, because the ideal behind that, and Thebes was always very, very gay as a Greek city anyway, but the ideal behind that was, if you have a group of people of the same sex who all love each other in the same way as anybody else loves them, they are going to fight much, much harder for the people they love than if you just mix a random bunch of people together and hope that they develop this sense of camaraderie. The ancient band of Thebes was probably the most effective band of any ancient Greek armed forces up until Alexander the Great. It was incredibly successful to the point where Plato could notice it and say, actually, maybe there's some point to this. So the problem, again, isn't just that gay people exist in the army. It's not that women can mix showers with men. The problem is entirely to do with the culture that underpins why people want to go into the army in the first place. And if you have a country that tells all its young people they should hate it, they should hate the country they are born up in, why the fuck would you expect any of them to join up and sign up and serve in the name of patriotism when they've all been told that patriotism is the lowest refuge of the scoundrel? It's not going to bode well in the future. But the problem isn't diversity per se. The problem is just what diversity is used for.
Hear, hear.
Well said, Lord. Okay, so we'll move on.
Never understood it, what he said, but hey, well said.
Gay people make good soldiers, is basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, this was the big kind of fandom news this week, Rippaverse.
Yeah, this is great. I love this.
I
bought my. Did any of you buy this? I bought mine. I bought cover A right there. I can't wait. I can't wait to get it.
Matt, what's obviously self-funding. What is he self-funding for the uninitiated?
Well, this is like he basically started his own company where he's basically produced. He's like printed out his own comic book. He put $200,000 into this company, and he's creating this whole thing. Just around this one, he put his own money because he believed in himself.
$200,000, yes.
Yeah, and it's over 2 million.
Wow.
And it's really great news. I bought a copy of it just because I'm a huge comic book fan, and I follow this guy on Twitter. And on YouTube, and me and him align politically a lot. But I can't wait for it. It's going to be super fun. I'm so proud of him and happy for him because you get a lot of crap comic books these days, and for somebody like me who I have to constantly buy old comic. Like I just bought a Hawkman comic book that got canceled in 2018 by Robert Vanetti, and it's really, really good. But it's like you can't find any good stuff now. You have to go back to find anything good. And so I'm glad that he's creating content for people like me that I can buy this and I don't have to worry about dealing with the nonsense of comic book these days.
Melvin Deeply says, got accused of hating women because I said I was going to buy this. I still can't stop laughing.
Yeah, but if you don't buy it, you might be accused of being a racist.
Right. I don't understand why people would say anybody hates women if you
because they've got
this.
fuck all else better to do. Swappers, anything to add?
I don't know, man. I mean, superhero comics haven't appealed to me for decades and decades and decades. A lot of Japanese stuff was really, really good when I was reading comics, and I was into Transformers comics for a little while before they started going all woke. Like gay robots and stuff.
Oh,
so I haven't read comics for quite a while. It's very rare I'll buy anything that sort of seems like mainstream. They just seem to recycle the same things over and over. There's only so many things a superhero can do. It's like, oh, what powers has this guy got? What makes him different? It's like, oh, he can fly and he has super strength. What that's it. Oh, okay. There's so many of them out there that are just all the same. They're a carbon copy. They might look a little bit different. But when you get down to the story, it's just like, oh man, I've read this like 50 times before in the 1980s. Why am I buying this now? So any new comics these days have really got to be something special and original to get my interest. But
That's
I
right.
have no idea what the story is behind this character, what he is, what his powers are, or anything. So to me, it's just another superhero. So it doesn't interest me in the slightest. But I'm really glad someone's out there making this material that a lot of fans still seem to like, even though it's been recycled God knows how many times, for an audience that really hates the woke shit and wants to read good story.
But you know what, Matt? It's he might be doing what, say, for instance, Frank Miller did. So before Frank Miller came to Marvel, Marvel Comics was very much of a muchness, and then Frank came in and he saw it another way, and when he took over Daredevil, it became a huge seller. And I remember being attracted to the story that Frank Miller was creating within the Daredevil world, changed the whole aspect of Daredevil. And then he went to Batman, and the rest is history. So Eric July might be doing something very similar with that kind of concept that you mentioned. He might be.
In the chat, Z says, Reddit denying a black independent creator a voice because they don't like who he associates with. Sounds like the racist alt-left to me, and then not Brian. A lot of transitioning in the Transformers. Are they gay robots in drag?
It's so weird.
Just to build quickly on what Z said on the point on Reddit. So the story behind that is that the R comic book subreddit, which is it's a big online community for comics.
Yeah.
The moderators there basically said anything, not even mentioning Eric July, but anything that could perceivably be taken to imply a mention of him would be automatically banned and prohibited from discussion. Wow. The reason they did that is because what he's doing, from what I've gathered from what he said, is he's not trying to go out and create a comic book which is like alt-right MAGA type Captain America equivalent. He's not doing Captain Trump. All he's doing is saying, I'm just going to not do what all of the comic books industry is currently doing and injecting random woke bullshit in and destroying established characters. I just want a good old-fashioned type superhero thing. Is what Swap Shop said earlier. So, there's a problem you can say, I guess. Ultimately, these things tend to lead in the same kind of repetitive direction. Yeah. But the point at the moment is that by trying to deviate from that, the comic books industry is basically saying, we're going to undermine the principle which underpins that entire direction. The whole idea of, say, Daredevil was mentioned earlier. Daredevil has, he's come from a really difficult background. He's blind, he's disadvantaged in that way, and he overcomes these disabilities to create this icon, this beacon that everyone can look up to. And that's sort of been the underpin for every superhero comic that's ever been popular, ever. The idea that you come from disadvantageous backgrounds, you might be a normal person at one point, but then you overcome those difficulties, and then you become this thing everyone looks up to. All Eric July is doing is basically saying, well, that's a good thing, and I want characters like that. And instead of that, there was a slide from a recent, I think it was a Batman comic out, it was put on Twitter a couple of days ago, where the dialogue was something like, you just don't want to see a queer person of color Latinx woman in a position of power. I was like, well, you're just advertising for this guy now, because that's utter horseshit. The reason people want traditionalist comics book storytelling, the reason he's so successful, is that no one wants this kind of injection of gesture politic into their stories. They want things to look up to, not reminders of what idiots on the left think is the problem with society.
You're right. It's just like Top Gun. The reason why, I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was great, as everybody was saying. But the reason why everybody's saying it was great was because we've been infested with so much crap and agenda. When Top Gun came, it had none of that. Just entertainment. It's as the analogy that Brown said once. It's like you're starved and somebody offers you a Ritz biscuit. And it's the best thing you ever tasted. So the same thing with Eric July's comic as well. We've been starved of this stuff.
Oh, yes.
He's going to bring this comic out, and it's going to be what we want it to be. and therefore success. That's what's going to happen.
Just
isn't it?
Just to sorry, just can I come back on time profits
course you
earlier
can.
one, the disadvantaged background thing. So okay, in the first place, Batman's parents were killed, so that's kind of disadvantageous. But that sort of misses the point of both of those characters. The point of both of those characters is that supreme wealth, which they both enjoy, is not itself character forming. Tony Stark only becomes an interesting character once he has been pulled down from that position of wealth and status, and he has to then earn his way back into a position of meaningful earned status. Tony Stark is a billionaire. Batman is born to billionaires. Batman's parents died. Tony Stark was cast out into a desert. Both of them in their own way had to recreate their characters and their mythos, and they also had to sacrifice something to attain the status that you cannot buy simply with wealth. So I don't think it holds that, I think that does still count as disadvantageous backgrounds, basically.
I think Tony Stark, he tasted what it was like to have nothing when he was out there. He tasted what it was like to have no money, be in a hopeless situation, and that's what changed him. And as he kept going, and decided to become Iron Man, he wanted to correct the wrongs that he had never had the guts to, or was too busy screwing girls and drinking and stuff like that. With Batman now, he was scarred for life by his parents' death, and both of them have a journey.
Yeah,
so
the journey is the important point. And in Iron Man's case, in a way, you can actually portray being born to super wealth as being its own disadvantage, because the whole point about that is it denies you actual meaningful experience of life as it is lived by the vast majority of people. It makes you a recluse by definition. You have to be cast out into the world to understand who you are as a human being. That's where you are placed into that world in relation to other human beings in order to earn your way to a position that other people can justly look up to you for. So, in its own way, I think we shouldn't conflate being born into wealth with being born into advantage, because in its own way, it's a disadvantage.
Money's only it's just kind of like a driving thing, isn't it? It's who you are.
Swaps, would you like to could you read Melvin's comment and then we'll move on, please?
By their logic, if you drive a Volkswagen, you must be endorsing Hitler. If you use a mobile phone, you endorse child slavery. Tired of hearing people like that. I'll be me and they can be them.
Oh my God, I better throw my phone. Get rid of my car.
There is still a Chinese person's fingernail embedded in my laptop. I should probably get that
out.
I will tell you if the comic is good, though.
Yeah. I would love to hear your view on it, Matt. Love to hear it.
Yeah. Eagle Moss is going out of business by the looks of it. Eagle Moss make toys, replicas, like spaceships and collectibles. And they're going out of business.
Why? Nobody's buying this stuff?
Yeah. I think I read Star Wars was a lot to do with it, but I don't know if that's true.
Oh wow!
Plus, don't they make a lot of those Star Trek ships?
Discovery stuff? Yeah.
Which, if it hadn't gone south,
nobody's buying it.
Yeah, that's the thing. If it hadn't gone south, I would have bought some stuff, but not interested. Not interested.
When I was in Forbidden Planet a couple of days ago, I heard people saying, that one couple said Star Trek Discovery. No, don't want to buy that. All you've got to do is just go into a comic store or bookstore and hear the opinions of people on the trash that we've been given.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Season 5 filming at the moment.
Well, they can keep.
Can't wait.
I can.
I would imagine all the legacy Star Wars stuff does well. But when Eagle Moss are paying licensee money to produce this stuff as well, and it's not moving off the shelves, well, it's quite sad, really, isn't it?
Yeah, well, if you look at, for instance, Star Trek, the ships on that show are just ugly. Like, I wouldn't pay for any of that stuff if it was like the Enterprise is a beautiful ship, but nothing from Discovery is worth my bookshelf. It's not
by the way, I was watching. I was so bored. I was looking through YouTube, and I came across a clip from Strange New Worlds, and it was I don't know. You guys have probably seen it. I haven't. It was a bit where they met Captain Kirk. Captain Kirk saved them from this race. I don't know who the race is. And they put him on screen. I was like, is that the guy that got to play Captain Kirk? He looks nothing like William Shatner. He sounds nothing like William. What the hell is going on
He
here?
was looking like Chris Pine.
And do you know what? That definitely sold it for me that I shouldn't be watching that show at all. God, sorry, carry on.
Yeah, that was... obviously, it's the Kelvin timeline, so they were taking him off Pine. So,
yeah, a
Didn't
small
look
piece
anything
of me
like
does
Pine
feel,
either.
right. A
Sorry,
small piece of me does feel bad for him, just because I'm pretty sure they, at one point in time, they were selling a lot of stuff, and now they're all like, "Oh crap, we can't move any of this. Nobody wants this nonsense."
Yeah.
okay, so we'll move on. I'm sure somebody will save Eagle Moss because it's such a iconic company, but we'll see.
Mm.
Speaking of things that are not being funded, this was the double-ended
Weaver. Sorry.
double-ended red lightsaber sword thingy. Swappers, did you see this? I assume you were putting your pennies. You're disappointed you're not getting one?
Couldn't give a toss, really. I don't know why. I really don't know why they didn't just call it Inquisitor lightsaber, and
Right.
and make it a generic lightsaber, because they all look pretty much the same.
Yes.
So they could have just sold it as an Inquisitor lightsaber, and that would have got a lot more attention. No one wants anything that's been specifically labeled with that character's name. It's like having Rey Skywalker written on your backpack. What do you want to be laughed out of school if you're gonna, come on, no one's gonna buy it. So let's make it a little bit. Let's be a little bit more generic about it, and let people impose their own identity on stuff.
In the chat, not Brian. Double danger denied.
Well, it's a shame, really, that Star Wars has gone to this point. I can't watch this stuff anymore. I really can't.
Did you? You didn't watch Obi?
Nope. I don't want to watch. I don't want my idea of Obi-Wan Kenobi spoilt. It just no.
Season 2 possibly on the way. So
who cares?
Did any of the panel divvy up the $500 to buy one of these? No.
So, did you just say $500?
I think it was $500.
Jesus Christ!
It was effectively crowd funded. These big companies now are kind of crowdfunding.
Yeah, they needed
the numbers.
Yeah, they needed. They wanted 5,000 people to buy it, and they only got like 1,400. Nobody wanted it.
Strong words from Slash.
1,400 wanted
it. Strong words from Slash Fadcock. Star Wars. Very strong words.
But
Star
very
Wars.
true.
Yes, it's very true.
Okay, so we'll move on. So nobody wants it. Highly surprising.
I think
I don't want it.
It might be. I think it was not Brian, friend of the channel, who said on Twitter, he's still waiting for a Qui-Gon Jinn lightsaber of that quality. And I guarantee you, if they said we're doing Qui-Gon's lightsaber immediately, that will be met instantly. That there would be no. It would maybe take an hour for the funding target to be matched. It just sort of says about the comparative popularity, even of the prequels to the new offerings. No one gives a shit about Obi-Wan Kenobi.
I think Tomy crowdfunded a replica of the original Star Trek USS Enterprise. I think it was a die-cast model. They were looking for so many, obviously, so many pre-orders. It was quite expensive, but I think it was like a 32-inch.
Don't finish that sentence.
USS Enterprise with flashing lights, everything. It looked amazing, and I think it was about $600 or $700, and I think they were looking for 5,000 backers because obviously everything's minimum runs, isn't it? I think they made that. But if you do quality stuff from the legacy stuff, it'll fly off the shelves. But anyway.
And I don't think it's to do with that. I think it's to do with nostalgia. And I think the only people who are going to buy it is people like us, isn't it? We would buy it.
That Enterprise was really cool, though.
Yeah.
They're aiming it at people who love the original stuff, who have got money, but yet Paramount are not aiming Star Trek at us.
That's it. That you're absolutely right.
I don't get it. I don't get it.
Nor do I.
Okay.
No one does.
So speaking of things we don't want, this was from the Little Platoon podcast. Lord,
She's getting her own TV show.
Lord, do you know anything about this?
I do. Do you want to hear a quote from the actual article mentioned?
Always.
So,
Always.
according to the author, can I get through this with a straight face? Let's see. The author says, the moment she first appears in The Last Jedi, Rose is us. Sure, she's a resistance mechanic in a fictional universe, but she's a fan of all the Star Wars characters we are. These types of fan insert characters are usually hugely popular, especially if they are fans of the story's heroes. It wasn't the case with Rose, whether because of misogyny, racism, or the fact that Rose voiced the political viewpoint of The Last Jedi. But Rose remains one of the most earnest and believable Star Wars characters in the franchise. She's only a hero because she idolizes heroes that came before her, like Leia Organa. The thrust of the article is that actually we all owe Rose Tico a series because we were mean to her, because she's such a good character.
Rubbish.
Oh, God.
Didn't she rape kiss Finn?
Yes.
I wouldn't go that far, but the thing is, though, if you took her out of that story, it wouldn't have made any difference whatsoever. They just shoved her in because of political rubbish.
Here you go. C3PO Studios aim their shows at unemployed Twitter activists that have no money and obviously pronouns in their names.
Yeah.
So I take it we're all looking forward to this. I am.
Oh, massively.
Absolutely.
I would love to do a long review series on this show.
I mean, I think people have to understand that we're not really having a go at the actress per se. We're having a go at the
end of the stick. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure she's a nice person, and stuff like that. Yeah,
honestly, it would be like doing an EFAP on the live feed from the ISS, wouldn't it?
I'd watch that.
It's just
quite interesting.
It's just there's no point in her. There's no point in that character at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there is a point to these articles though, and I've got one more Obi-Wan Kenobi video to do, which is going to be like a proper sort of dive into the mechanics behind all of this kind of stuff. The reason the media coverage is what it is, the reason they accuse people of racism before the show's even out, the reason they post articles like this for the clicks. And part of that is because it makes an enormous amount of economic sense for them to do this. It's proven. The New York Times it's actually developed its own unique machine learning algorithm to deduce what emotionally impacts people the most. Hatred and negative emotions do the best, and it creates a massive amount of free publicity for any studio which can marshal negative publicity. So when Disney turns around and starts saying, oh, the fans are going to be racist, and then you get thousands of articles saying racist fans, and then you get this, a known unpopular character, they put this out there as well. Again, you will instantly get thousands of articles championing your own product by defending supposedly against non-existent racist fans. That's the reason they're doing this. They're doing it because it makes economic sense, because this kind of stuff gets clicks. No one with a brain thinks Rose Tico deserves a fucking TV series.
I beg to differ. Andy Mouse does.
Well, they're also giving that guy that was in, who's that? Was his Andor?
Yes,
they're giving him a series. Yeah. It's like, who cares about him? Nobody cares about him.
He died.
No one. He died. That's it. Why are they creating a show around the guy that wasn't even part of Star Wars properly? If you know what I mean. Just honestly. You want to waste your money? Go ahead, Disney.
I'm sure Andor will be good for both channels. That's out next month, folks.
Is it next month already? Jesus.
Yeah. Okay, so the Emmys were announced this week. Lots of Emmy nominations for the Star Trek franchises, none for stories or characters. It's just basically technical Emmy Awards.
I noticed this, and I think I put
Same
on
with
Twitter.
Star Wars as well.
The Book of Boba Fett got 5 Emmy Awards.
Yeah, all technical.
All of them were in the part of the production which basically specializes in polishing turds, VFX, design, character design. Sorry, none of it was for story or actual character writing. Anything important? It was just, well, it looks kind of pretty, so award us, please. Polishing turd awards.
They do. The effects in most of those things are really good. Let's face it. I mean, they do deserve a nod, don't
Definitely,
they?
yeah.
But yeah, you're right. They're not being nominated for
Isaac
performances or
Long
scripts or
Blackcock
anything like that.
in the chat. It's Polish, not Polish, mate. How diverse.
Okay.
Andy Mouse, yeah, agreed. Make a fucking Calculon series. Best part of Obi-Wan. So, Bobo Odenkirk nominated for Better Call Saul. Hardly surprising because he's been shit hot.
He's a good actor, and he started off as a comedian. Started off as a comedian. He was like a writer, wrote for a lot of comedy shows and stuff like that. And I think it was by accident that he starred in something, and then his acting career took off. But you know what, right? You can tell that this man is a nice person.
Agreed.
There's something about this man that you kind of gravitate towards as a character, especially Saul.
Nobody.
Yeah, it's great. Nobody, he wasn't even playing Saul in Nobody, and yet I gravitated towards him. I think, I can trust this guy. Do you know what I mean? So, it's a shame that it's taken him that long to be noticed. In
the chats, the Mighty MC, he is great, and he loves Nobody. Everybody in the chat, check out Nobody. It's great. So let's hope he should get it. He's been fantastic.
I punched the sky if he got it, because he's really good. Really good.
Andy, seen Nobody, the best in film I've seen in years. Same universe as John Wick as well. Great film, 90 minutes, no fat on it. It's just bish bash bosh. Have it. Okay. Let's move on.
Why?
Good luck with that.
Okay, then shall we move on?
Yes.
The first one was awful.
Right. Okay. So,
can I just say, every time someone mentions to me the Eternals, I think, oh shit, yeah, that exists. I haven't seen it yet, and then I immediately forget about it. And then the next time, it's an equivalent surprise. I completely forget that the Eternals exist. I still haven't seen it.
I tell you what, my friend fell asleep halfway through it. And he never falls asleep. It was that bad. It really was.
Yeah, my wife, who's a normie, even at the end of that, she was like, "Well, that felt like a waste of time." I'm like, "It was a huge waste of time."
Right. Okay. Just a bit of a serious point. I spotted this at the beginning of the week. This was Chloe Cole, who she said at the age of 11 she'd become exposed to transgender activism on Instagram and Tumblr, which effectively it made her confused into thinking she didn't know what her own gender was. And 2018, at the age of 14, obviously this is a bit of a hot topic at the moment with what is a woman and all that stuff. And Chloe began taking puberty blockers and testosterone injections at the age of 14. The injections were administered by her mother. That year, she changed her name to Leo. Then, June 2020, she goes under the knife at 15 for a double mastectomy. And then the main nub of the story is that straight away she regretted it. And a main kind of thing now is the kind of detransitioning stuff, isn't it? The kind of transitioning regrets, which I think is gonna, a lot of this is gonna start coming through. As I said, I don't have kids, but I just think with everything that's happening today, and these are the schools as well in America that are doing all this stuff as well, isn't it, Matt? Kind of confused.
So you said, "Isn't it Matt?" As though it's his fault.
Well, we've talked about this before, haven't we, Matt Cat? It's worrying times being a parent.
Yeah, I'm not like, well, my state is not as progressive as this, but it is worrying because like, you know, when it comes to your kids, you know, you hear stories about in the news that about kids that, you know, teachers start giving them pills and stuff to transition them at school, and they don't even tell the parents. And they're like, well, we didn't have to tell you. And it's like, what? This is an underage child. You can't just give them pills and stuff to help them transition without, you know, notifying me. It is scary. And I don't like it, especially when it comes to younger children.
14 though. All these,
that's
14. She was female at birth, by the way, folks.
Yeah, she doesn't know, you know, she does not understand the ramifications of what she's doing. Puberty is like a natural thing that happens to your body. And I've read so many articles like this of adults that regret it. And they just basically talk about how like their whole lives are messed up. And it just, you know, I think that this girl's mother should be put in jail. Because
it's child cruelty. Yes,
it is. She failed her daughter.
She did,
in every sense of the word. And it just makes me go like, listen, if your child, when they get older, wants to make that decision, that's fine. That's their decision to make. But as a child, it's your job as a parent to protect them and to make what you think is the best decision. And I can tell you right now, destroying their body from what is natural in nature is not the right decision. It's not.
Yes, it says here she came to the realization that she would never be able to breastfeed her children.
Yeah, which is
Chloe
crazy.
said that she stopped taking testosterone injections at that point.
Did you see What Is a Woman? There's a similar story in that as well.
Yeah, here you go. Yes, we have seen it. What's a Woman? I encourage everybody to watch What Is a Woman.
Because it's a very similar story to that in it, and it's just a tragedy of what they're doing. And there's one guy in Canada who basically he got arrested, got put into jail.
A parent.
Yeah. So it's just honestly,
it's closer to home as well. So I believe the law in Scotland, for example, Scotland already says that if a child is demonstrating what they call gender non-conforming behavior, the school should refer the child to a gender identity clinic without telling the parents. So I believe that's already the case in Scotland, which of course isn't particularly good. If you delve into the statistics around it, especially with young kids, it's even worse. Something like 70%, I think it is, of children who demonstrate gender non-conforming behavior desist from that within 5 years.
Yeah, it's a small minority.
It's very small, and something like 60% just turn out to be gay. This is where you have the whole tension within the so-called LGBTQAZ double plus bi sign, whatever community it is, because you have an entire political faction, in the country, which takes the Iranian line on homosexuality, which is we'd rather you just chopped your bits off and change gender than be gay, because being gay is bad, but as long as you conform with what our archetypal definition of a woman is, that's fine. It's doubly weird as well, because we've spent years being told by feminists that if you think that all there is to being a woman is dressing in pink and playing with girls' toys, you're a misogynist. Now we're being told that dressing in pink and playing with girls' toys makes you a woman, whatever other considerations there happen to be. So that creates the division between old school feminists and new feminists and the trans lobby, which basically says actually gender is incredibly stereotypical. But look, I know trans people. I hope you won't mind me saying that the guy who does most of the artwork for our channel is a trans guy, and we've had these arguments, we've had these conversations. The argument, as I've heard it put, for allowing people to transition younger, is that once you get beyond a certain age, especially beyond puberty, for example, it becomes very difficult to mask the biological changes that have happened to your body. So it's much more easy. It's much harder to pass as the opposite gender if you start transitioning over, for example, the age of 18. Against which I think the argument is, A, you've acknowledged there is a biological difference between men and women by saying that actually left to its own devices, biology takes different courses for men and women, which makes it harder to transition later. And then B,
Nature.
even if it is harder for you to do so, if you're presented with figures saying that 70% of young people who say they want to transition desist within 5 years, what you want to be saying is really a compromised position. Actually, okay, we can allow this and we can accommodate this, and we should do as much as we can to accommodate this once people are of a legal age and able to make the
18.
decisions for themselves. But you cannot possibly try to extend this down to a generation of people, an age category of people who, by definition, do not know what the fuck they are talking about. Yep. And young people, generally speaking, do not. Speaking as a recently young person myself, young people go through a massive psychological, emotional, and physical trauma in puberty. This is why it's disproportionately young people who try to transition, but it's also why it's disproportionately young people who try to cease transitioning because they change their fucking minds. So I'm all for people having the right to transition. I understand the trans person's perspective that it becomes more difficult later on, but surely if you are a trans person and you want this to be specified to people who are genuinely trans as opposed to people who are sort of flirting with wacko ideas of puberty, you need it to be more difficult. Rights come with responsibilities. It's not just the case that you can look at a 12-year-old playing with girls' toys and say, right, we're lopping your penis off now. That should not be how it is. It does a disservice to trans people as well as to normal human decency to say that.
It's the hundreds of thousands of dollars of aftercare medicine to keep these people the way they are.
And almost all the stats that they trot out about why this is necessary, like suicidality rates, that's a complete fabrication.
Yeah.
Violence against trans people, you are less likely to be murdered in this country if you are trans than if you are any other part of the population anywhere. So if they tell you that trans people in this country suffer disproportionate amounts of bigotry and violent persecution, the figures they are using come from the prostitution industry in Brazil. This is not a sane basis on which to conduct these conversations. Almost every figure trotted out by a left-wing, invariably left-wing politician, but also some Conservative Party leadership candidates on this issue is fabricated. It simply is not true.
And it's, folks.
Yeah, it's a disservice to actual trans people to try and co-opt these innocent people into political campaigns. I support the rights of genuine trans people to live as the gender they claim they are. I can have a disagreement as to whether I think gender is a valid concept, but I support their right to do that. It's when you start saying children should be medically and permanently altered on the name of fashion and to serve politics, that's when I start having a problem with this.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, let me tell you a small little story. Okay. A friend of mine, she's a teacher, and she teaches kids who can't hear of 15, 16. And then one lesson, a girl went to the toilet and she didn't come back. So my friend was worried. So she said, can anyone just go in the loo and find out what's wrong with the girl? And this guy put his hand up and she was like, well, I don't want you to go. I want a girl to go. And apparently he says that he's a woman. He should be allowed to go, but she stopped him. She's like, no, I would prefer if, this person went. And she got told off by everyone from the headmistress straight down to everyone that she did that. So this is where we're going. And it's bad for teachers now, isn't it? It's really bad for teachers.
Okay.
They've essentially become funnels into the profit-seeking medical industry, which is not a good position for teachers to be in. MC makes the MC in the chat says, I don't know if you could pull the comment up, that a lot of the suicide rates are from people who have transitioned and realized they made a mistake. And that's a really interesting thing to get into, which I won't go into in depth, but just the basic headline of it is, we always hear that trans people are disproportionately inclined to suicidality. Trans people tend to want to commit suicide more than non-trans people do. But the question is, what are you comparing this to? Because if you compare this to trans people before they've transitioned, to trans people, I think 20 years after they've transitioned, there is no difference in the suicidality rate. In other words, the suicidality rate is not actually correlated to their trans nature. It's much more the case that they are trans because they have other psychological, sociological problems which are not being addressed. And even if they transition, the depression that leads them to suicide does not decrease from the fact they have transitioned. So it's not an answer to the problem posed. You don't solve the problem of suicidality by making transitioning easier. Evidentially, that does not work.
It's a shame, really, because the girl's pretty as a picture, and she's just going to have a life of regrets now. And I wouldn't want to wish that on anybody, especially my own children.
Yeah.
So I agreed with what you said. Mother should be brought up on charges. But
Yeah.
anyway, okay. We will just briefly go through the last stories, then we'll take our leave. So connected with that, Leah Thompson has been nominated for Woman of the Year.
Well, good for
What?
That's the swimmer.
Seriously?
So anyway, we'll just leave that one.
It's great.
where
All
that
these
is.
categories that are created to champion women are now all being won by men. It's fantastic.
Has he ever had a period?
No, no, never.
I rest my case then. You know what I mean? What a waste of time.
It does mean something though, because in American colleges, I mean, Matt, you'll probably be better placed than I to speak on this, but a large number of American colleges, especially prestigious colleges, offer very, very generous scholarships to athletes who don't necessarily have academic ability, but earn their place there through their athletic ability.
For sure.
And a huge number of women's categories, disproportionate number. In fact, in some states, I think it's now the majority of them are being won by biological men. So this system created to try and empower women through athleticism is now basically entrenching the patriarchy in the name of countering the patriarchy.
But they said that in that film. Do you remember when they were interviewing the woman that was basically in that race, and that she had to be blacked out because she was scared of the repercussions?
Yes.
When she was talking about it. So it's a tragedy, isn't it?
As we said, I encourage everybody to watch. What's it called? What is a Woman?
What is a Woman?
Yeah, What is a Woman? Matt
by
Walsh.
Matt Walsh. I encourage everybody to watch it, and maybe we'll come back at a later date to discuss it.
Also, he goes to a store, doesn't he, which sells like action figures, and that is the most Star Wars thing we've seen for many, many years. There are more Star Wars characters in What is a Woman than there are in actual Star Wars.
Yeah. He's good though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he was really good in there.
Maybe I should reach out to him. But anyway. And for the benefit of the Time Prophet, and finally, bigger font. Do you like that, folks?
Love it.
I liked it until this. I can't see this. What the fuck?
Can you see that?
I can see that, yes.
And
finally,
I've spelt it correctly, haven't I?
Yes.
And 5 years yesterday. Here you go, Ian.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, what can you say about this crap? You know, they had every chance in the world to make this a success, and they blew it by giving us rubbish. So,
yeah, I remember when I saw this trailer, I thought, okay, I think we can give it a go.
No, my heart sunk when I saw it.
Oh,
yeah, because I don't believe in race.
What do I know?
Race swapping or gender swapping. I don't believe in it at all.
Yeah.
And I don't care what anyone says. Oh, he's an alien. No, the Doctor is a male and a white dude, as far as I'm concerned. So,
how do we? I can't see what's in the hand there.
It's a key. It's a key.
I thought it might be a puberty blocking pill. So.
And on that note, I think we'll finish. So I will thank the chat. The chat has been fantastic tonight. I think genuinely this has been one of the better Sunday night musings. I think it was. I think we got the guests and the topics spot on this week. So chat. You are wonderful, always bringing your A game. Always good to see the regulars and some new faces in there. So appreciate the interaction. And as I always say, we are nothing without the chat. So cheers, guys. I will thank the guests in order of my screen. Mega Geek, Ian, thank you, sir.
No worries.
The wonderful Matt Katz, 83, thank you, my friend.
Oh, thank you. I had a great time. Always do.
Swappers, thank you.
It was an interesting time, Mr. Brown. Thank you very much.
It was genuinely a good one this week. And last but by no means least, here he is, Lord Chord.
I want to take my time just to devote to the superb names in chat this evening. I think
some belters, yes.
I want a Blackcock. It's now changed to Sticky Belly Flapcock. That's very good.
Yeah.
We've had No Fox Given. That's also very good. There have been some fantastic names in chat, and this has been a brilliant stream as ever. And thank you to you for saying
I'll just say, guys, share the stream. Tell your friends about us, because I'll be honest here. I'm at the stage where I can see why YouTubers bite the dust, because sometimes it can be difficult. So I'll just say I'm at a funny stage at the moment. So okay. So I think that's it. I keep saying we will come on the stream midweek and do a film review. I think we've got Blade Runner. We've got Tron. We've got a couple of Star Treks in the bank. We'll maybe pop up midweek. I always say that, but we never do. But we will be back next weekend at some point. So I think that is it. Take care, everybody. If you're in Blighty, try and stay cool tomorrow. Make sure you keep hydrated. And if you know people who are old, make sure they drink, because old people are awkward bastards at the best of times. So that's it. Take care,
in the name
everybody.
of sorry, just before, in the name of public service, can I share some advice from one of the heads of the NHS, just for the health warning?
Don't go to work or school.
No, it was, if you want to avoid heat wave deaths, stay safe. That was the actual advice. So good luck.
Oh, I think I gave better advice than that. So that's it. 2 hours, 6 minutes. We're out. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.